All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Resource Insider podcast. Today, I am sitting down with the CEO of OroX Mining, a company that I'm a shareholder in, that I found out about several months ago and have gotten to know the management team and the directors in that time. And today, we're going to talk to the CEO, Luis Zapata. Now, Luis has a lot of experience in the mining world in both Canada and Peru, where OroX is focused. So we're going to get into his background, who he is, why he started OroX, and what investors have to look forward to. So without further ado, Luis, thanks for sitting down today.
Hey, Jamie, thank you for having us.
Okay, so I would like to start this conversation with the name of your company, because there's a little X over the top there. And we've been seeing a bit of that lately with GoldX, obviously. I'm a shareholder in that, and they're focused in Guyana. Now it's OroX. Is there a relation between these two? Is there anything in common, or did you just like the name?
No, 100%. So our lead advisor and my partner in the deal, Paul Matysek, obviously X is his brand. Lithium-X was a very successful company. It was taken out in 2018 in the last lithium cycle. Paul took over a gold company in Guyana, which he rebranded GoldX, which is doing very well. And we're the third leg now, OroX. So we're focusing on precious metals in Peru.
So Lithium-X taken out for, I want to say 250 million-ish a few years ago, 280. GoldX, Paul's CEO. We've got Robert Friedland recently brought in as chairman, OroX. So this is stage 3. You're the CEO. Paul's the lead advisor. Can you tell me, I think it's best we start with the background of how this deal came to be. Did Paul find the asset and pull you in as CEO, or did you have the asset and pull the team together? How did this come about?
I met Paul many years ago when I was at Canaccord Genuity, and we always talked about doing something. He lives part-time in Peru, as you might know. So we hang out a lot in Peru, and we were always looking to do a deal together. And when the opportunity came up to acquire these assets, specifically OroX, we jumped at it and we put into a vehicle, which we then rebranded OroX.
Okay.
So it was about a 1-year build on that.
So Paul has sold something like 5 companies over the course of his career. You've got an experience in the financial side of mining. Before we get into the details on OroX and the assets therein, can we talk a little bit about your background and your track record in this space? Do you come at this from the company side, or you mentioned you worked with Canaccord? So do you have a brokerage investment banking background? How does that look, Luis?
Yeah, I mean, right out of college in 2007, I started working at Canaccord, and I moved to Peru in 2008. And in 2010, I convinced Canaccord to let me launch a South American equities desk, which I started from scratch. I built that business over 3 years. It became quite a big business, and I left Canaccord to become head of banking at Peru's biggest investment bank for a bit. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I just left and thought, I like mining. I like financing my own deals. I have a good network of clients, so I left to finance deals. I guess most notably did a deal in Ecuador, which got taken out. Did a copper deal in Mexico, which is doing quite well. So my background is banking, sales and trading, and I'm a financier basically.
And so when you say you built the equities desk focused on Latin America, for those listening who don't have a finance or banking background, what is an equity desk? What does that actually entail?
So basically, I was based in Toronto on Bay Street, but my function was to come to South America and get South American institutions, pension funds, hedge funds, mutual funds to invest in North American equities, right? And we built that business from scratch. At one point, we were actually the #1 volume trader out of Peru for the Toronto Stock Exchange through a desk. I came to Peru and I connected 60 to 70% of the brokerage houses here with the Canaccord trading platform, which to this day they use. So through that, I just built a pretty interesting network of investors, anywhere from pension funds to hedge funds. Built those relationships over 10 years now, and I'm happy that they back us in most of our deals.
So you'd mentioned that, your personal background is as a financier, but your family, as I understand it, has quite a long tie to the mining world, particularly in Latin America and Peru. Is that right?
Yeah, for sure. Both my grandparents were geologists, metallurgists. A lot of my uncles are in the business. Some of my family members here run a pretty major mining company in Peru. I myself have a couple little mining operations I invest in. So no, mining is in my blood, and I enjoy it. It's all I do.
And did you grow up primarily in Peru, or did you come to Canada for college, or did you spend most of your early life here?
My family moved to Vancouver when I was 8. So I did all my high school and college in BC. And then after that, when I finished that, I moved to Toronto for a few years with Canaccord. And then as soon as I could, I moved back to Peru full time. I always wanted to move back here. I mean, I love my country and I love being here.
Yeah, but you kind of have, you have it's unusual to have a foot so firmly placed in both worlds, right? You meet a lot of, or at least I meet a lot of guys who are ex-banking guys, Canadians or Americans that walk off down to Latin America and very quickly often find themselves in over their head, sort of navigating the challenges of working in a country where they don't speak the language or fully understand the culture. And then alternatively, you sometimes see highly technical, highly competent Latin Americans not able to fully make the jump to telling the story and selling their project to largely North American capital markets, right? You rarely see someone who's got both skill sets.
Yeah, I mean, one of my main functions at Canaccord was basically selling other people's deals, right? So we did a lot of IPOs, financing, secondary offerings. So I kind of got a feel for what institutions look for when they hear a pitch. And then I just said, look, if I could ever be in a position to, have a good team, have a well-capitalized company and go after assets that we like, I think it could be a winner, right? So I'm
Yeah.
kind of lucky in that regard. And I think the access to Canadian capital markets and South American projects has been very important for me.
No, it's super valuable, and that's really what attracted me to OroX when you guys first started talking to me about this several months ago. So I think we've covered a bit of the backstory, but it's definitely worth getting into what exactly is OroX, what your goal is with this company, and what current investors like myself and potential investors have to look forward to over the coming months and years, hopefully.
For sure. Well, look, what is OroX today is not what I think it will be in 3 months, 6 months, or a year. I mean, our first asset that we took over, well, let's come back a bit. When we first took over the shell in June of this year, we put in an Ecuadorian asset because, in 2017 and 18, I had actually financed an Ecuadorian company, which became a producer and got taken out. And our partners there were an Ecuadorian group who were actually Ecuador's biggest mining contractors. So when I took over the shell, before Paul got involved, I rolled in an Ecuadorian asset, which is called Julian, and we still have it. Through our partnership with our Ecuadorian partners, we now have acquired more ground in Ecuador, and we plan to do a spin-out. So any shareholder today in OroX will get the spin-out shares, I think Q1 of next year of the SpinCo. That's number one. Number two.
And so this is the Julian project and the surrounding ground that you guys have since, or is it surrounding ground, or is it another asset nearby?
It's nearby. We're finalizing that, but it's a pretty interesting 6,000 hectare block that was highly coveted in Ecuador during the last bid round, which we've now secured, and that will go into spin out at some point.
And this will be a standalone company that will not be owned by OroX, but rather by OroX shareholders who will receive a share in that. Okay. And so anyone buying the stock today will get exposure to that down the line. Is that correct?
Yeah, 100%. Okay. So that was step one, take over the vehicle, which became OroX. Step two was over the summer, we announced a transformative acquisition to acquire the Coriorco and Los Antos projects, do the rebrand, and on top of that, we raised $6 million, during the summer months. That's when Paul came in and we rebranded OroX. So, that's what we have today. We have the Coriorco and Los Santos project. Look, Coriorco is an asset which has been mined in the past. Paul and I looked over the mining records. I mean, they pulled out almost 10,000 tons of 7.5 to 10 gram material. Obviously, mining narrow veins. But what we see 17 veins at surface. The previous operator did a sampling program over all the veins in 2018. They all hit. The average grade at surface was 3.5 grams. That's at surface on a dome. 50 to 100 meters below in two adits, you have 10 grams. And then there's a little shaft that goes on 30 meters and have 13 grams. So, we basically see Coriorco as the upper reaches of a low sulfidation epithermal system. We know there's veins, we know they're mineralized. The question is, how much more veins are there? That's why we're going to shoot 3D AP first. And then, let's drill into them and see if we can start building some volume there, but it's definitely great.
So let's talk about what this means as a potential low sulfidization epithermal gold. You talked about there's 17 known veins. They'd been mined by, I would call them smaller scale miners. Is that correct?
100%,
sort of like a small private Peruvian operation. These guys have the ability to go in with jacklegs and dynamite and mine relatively narrow veins that might not be mined by a traditional large scale mining company. So
correct.
Is the strategy here to, obviously those 17 veins, but identifying more and more of these and then making a case that there's the volume that, okay, yes, we can actually mine this maybe by an open pit or some other larger scale mining method? Or is there a prize at depth that you're looking for here, that a more cohesive sort of larger mineralization event? What does that actually look like for people who have no understanding of this type of geology in this environment?
Sure. Well, look, the veins are like the upper fingers of a low sulfidation system, right? We have two models that we're currently exploring. We know the veins are mineralized. Is there mineralization in the host rock, right? That's number one. Our first drill program is going to be drilling into the veins to see, how much continuity we can get. But more importantly, right now, the Coriorco, it's actually called the Coriorco dome. So it's a dome structure, right? It's a 4,000 meters, and the dome gently domes up from the 4,000 meters or 4,200. Now, the veins are exposed because the dome is, outcropping from surface. Towards the east and northeast, there's a lot of younger rocks, which we think are overlaying more veins, right? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to shoot 3D AP to kind of look at what the resistivity is around the current veins, and B, look at towards the east and northeast, see if there's more veins undercover.
Okay.
And based on that 3D AP, we'll have a better model into what we're really going to be drilling for.
And for people at home, that's a geophysical program, correct?
Correct, yeah. Yeah.
And once you've identified, okay, you can see, you get an indication of where these veins might be. Does this inform a at-surface drilling program? Does it mean, are you going to enter old adits and old workings and do underground drilling? What's the plan to actually advance this and sort of build out an understanding of the geology and the mineralization there?
Sure. Well, look, most juniors that come to Peru, they try to get mining permits. It takes them 1 or 2 years, right? It's a typical experience. However, Peru has a program called the Small Scale Mining Permit, Pequeño Productor Minero, which is only open to Peruvian citizens and Peruvian companies with assets under 2,000 hectares, which is why we split Coriorco and Las Antas. Even though it's the same project, we split them into two 2,000 hectare blocks.
And
the reason we did that,
those are each owned by OroX, but are they owned by sort of separate Peruvian entities? Each owns one, and then those are both owned by the, okay, yeah.
Correct. So, what we're going to do is what Canadian companies used to do 20 years ago. We're asking for a small scale mining permit on Coriorco. Now, keep in mind that in 2010 to 2011 to 2012, Coriorco operated under a small scale mining permit. That's when they did this last pass, campaign. So all we're doing right now is we're trying to reactivate the small scale program that allows us to do all the activities around mining. Okay. Now we feel we're taking that as license to drill from inside the current adits. So there's 2 adits on vein 3 and 6. Our first priority is going to be drilling from those adits. We know, what the mineralization is. So that will be phase 1. We're also doing the 3D AP and, geochem, geomag on top of the dome. But we will most likely also try to drill a couple of holes from above the dome using a small scale mining permit, which Peruvian legislation allows us to do.
Okay, so you are in fact renewing a past Peruvian mining permit. Is that a quicker, less challenging timeline than even applying for a new small scale mining permit?
Oh, 100%. I mean, no, we're applying for a whole new permit, but based on that it was previously an operating unit and we're using the same underlying subsidiary, it's an easier process.
Got it. And do you have an understanding or an estimation rather of the timeline that will be? Is that a month? Is that 6 months? What are you hoping to achieve? When are you hoping to achieve that?
We've started the process. Our aim is to be drilling Q1 next year. What we've done the past 3 months since we took over the asset is where we've renegotiated a 5-year surface rights access with the 2 communities that, have the community rights. Nobody lives on the property. There's no inhabitants there, but obviously we need to have surface right access. So we have negotiated that, and I came to Peru to sign that deal hopefully this week.
And now, assuming the results of the drill program come back positive, does this permit give you the right to say do things like drill or rather sink exploratory adits, tunnels that you can go and access different areas and take bulk samples and that sort of thing to get a better understanding of what's there? Is that all contained within this as well?
Yeah, correct. The Pequeño Productor Minero, or PPM, it's more likely called here, gives you basically the rights to do all the things which are included in mining. So blasting, drilling, producing, etc.
Mm-hmm. And, how are you guys looking at this now? Is this an exploration project? Is this a development stage project with near-term production? How do you guys view it?
Well, look, Coriorco is a high-grade exploration project. There's been geochem done before. There's been production. There's been, trenching, etc. So, the baseline work has been done. We see it as a drill-ready, high-impact target. But that really leads us to what's the future of OroX and what we would like to do. I mean, OroX right now has 42 million shares out. We have a great brand. We have money in the bank. We have an amazing team. And Peru is ripe with opportunities. So, I've been financing projects here for the past 10 years. We have our hands on a couple projects which we think could take us to the next level. And, we've always guided the market that that's what we're looking to do.
And
grow via acquisitions.
Based on the name, I think I know the answer to this, but is everything you're looking at gold focused?
Gold or silver, precious metals. Look at the trend now. I mean, companies like Fortuna Silver, they're called Fortuna Silver, but half of their production is gold, especially now that they're bringing Landeros online, right? So we see that model. I mean, we're agnostic to gold or silver, but we want to stay in precious metals.
Okay. And now, what does success look like at Coriorco? Like, what are you looking for to say, okay, we've got a real deposit on our hands here. This is something that we'll potentially mine or be able to sell to a major. What should investors be thinking about when they're seeing your results come back next quarter and be like, okay, this is something I want to be involved in? Sure.
Well, look, I think the 3-day P phase is important because it's going to show you whether there's more veins, and we think there will be, most likely. In the current Coriorco system, we think at least 300 meters of the mineralization has been preserved, hasn't been eroded. So it's important that gives you a good, the chance to build a lot of volume quickly. So, I think number one, they're going to look for the 3-day P results, which, we'll be shooting early January, I would say. And then number two, obviously drill results, right? But we're going to be drilling from adits. We know the veins are there. So in my opinion, they should be pretty positive.
Okay.
Start building tonnage.
Now, I know you're on a tight time frame today, but something I do want to talk about quickly is the current political situation in Peru. Obviously, there's a lot of turmoil going on with elections. I think before we started recording, you said something like we've had 3 presidents in the last week and a half. Is that right?
Yes. Well, look, I mean, in 1 minute, the whole Peruvian political situation is basically, we had elections in 2016. We had a president which was elected, which was Pedro Pablo Kuczynski, PPK, as he's better known, who's an investment banker, actually, former head of the Boston Group. He won by a very slight majority. He won by 50,000 votes or so. The number 2 was Keiko Fujimori, who's obviously Alberto Fujimori's daughter. When she lost, she could never bear that she lost. So even though PPK won the presidency, she controlled Congress. So from 2016 to now, there's been a constant fight between the executive and the legislative branches of government in Peru, right? That's really the underlying issue here. PPK was obviously kicked out of government in 2018. Martin Vizcarra, who was the ambassador to Canada for Peru, took over as president. He was kicked out by Congress about a week ago now, or 10 days ago. And Congress installed the president of Congress as the acting president. He lasted a week because, the people revolted. And as of yesterday, we have a consensus cabinet led by a very centrist party called the Purple Party. That's actually their name. So we have an acting president now who's a great guy, Francisco Sagasti. He's actually a professor where I did some post-grad courses. So yeah, I think we'll be stable now until elections in April. But look, it's all noise, right? I mean, the president, the ministers, they come and go. I mean, Peru has had in each ministerial folder, we've had at least 7 ministers the past 5 years. So the top thing may change, but the daily life in Peru doesn't. So it's not a big deal, honestly.
Well, that kind of comes, to my next question, is that Peru is kind of known for having very different political microcosms in the different communities in the different provinces. And you guys are located in Ayacucho, is that right? Am I saying that right? I think.
Yeah, 100%.
On a side note, does that mean beef hearts? Are Ayacucho the beef hearts that you get in Peru?
No, Anticucho.
Anticucho or beef? Okay. All right.
Yeah,
so
Ayacucho, similar but not the same.
Everyone ignore that. That's just a good indication of how good my Spanish is, I would say. So Ayacucho, this province, what is the mining environment right there? Are communities supportive? Is the provincial governing body supportive as well?
Yeah, I mean, look, Ayacucho has its own DREM, Dirección Regional de Energía y Minas. So they have their own mining sort of functionaries, if you will. A few Peruvian provinces have that. They're a very mining friendly, province. They have operating mines. We have a couple plants, toll mill plants near our projects. So no, we've never had any problems with the community or with the government in Ayacucho. It's
okay.
Pretty good place to work, I would say.
Now, for people that have never heard of this before, for people who are just hearing about this now and they want to learn more, what's the best way for them to learn more about OroX? How do they get in touch with you?
Sure.
What would make that easier?
Our website's pretty good, oroxmining.com. You can find most of the info there. And if you shoot a message over to the info at OroX Mining, I get them all copied to me and I tend to respond. So happy to respond to any investor preferences that way, yeah.
And is there anything, Luis, that I forgot to ask today that you'd like to leave people with? Any parting thoughts?
No, look, I mean, I think we have a strong team. We have a tight share structure. We have cash in the bank. And, I would look at my partner's track records, not just Paul. We have the guy called Daryl Cardi on the board who's been involved in various really good deals. We're not here to be a single asset exploration company. I mean, we're here to make some noise in this market, and I think we're working hard towards that.
All right, Luis, thank you very much for taking some time today. Appreciate that. Guys, if you're interested in learning more about OroX, please reach out to Luis. You can find everything at oroxmining.com. All right, Luis, have a great day.
Thank you, Jamie.